Hello, and welcome to another edition of From the Desk of. I'm Jim Cohen, CEO of Minneapolis Jewish Federation, and I'm delighted to welcome two guests who are going to talk to us today about our partnership with the city of Rehovot. So, Avital Regev and Sonya Rapport, welcome to the Desk of. You guys have such interesting yet varied Jewish journeys which brought you to the partnership. And for our listeners, sometimes I might say partnership, sometimes I may refer to it as P2G, which is our playful abbreviation for it. But I'd love to hear from both of you as to what got you involved in the partnership and what keeps you involved. And Avital, let's start with you.
Okay, when I started with this partnership, I was the spokesperson for the municipality of Rehovot and also in charge of external relationships. So this is what got me started. But what kept me staying and what makes me so connected to this partnership, I think basically it's because we are people to people. The whole idea of this partnership is people to people and a genuine interest of what is going on and the feelings and the lives of I'm sorry if I sound cliche, but
No, go ahead.
our brothers and sisters across the sea, a genuine interest in your lives because we're all connected.
How about you, Sonia?
Why did I get involved? Because I love Israel and I love being Jewish. But really, it was because I was asked to participate in a program that the partnership was spearheading called 248. And it was a young adult leadership opportunity that really I had the honor to be a part of. It was such a meaningful year of having two cohorts, a Minneapolis cohort and a Rehovot cohort with our, brothers and sisters in Rehovot, where we're learning together. And then towards the end of the program, we had the chance to go to Israel to meet the individuals that we're working with. And really, like what Avital said, the people to people connections, unbelievable, right? We're meeting strangers basically, and they're becoming like family overnight, inviting us into their homes, welcoming us, having us meet their families, really so touching. So when the program ended, I wanted to be a part of the steering committee. I wanted to be a part of the group of people that are really building and making these connections as a partnership.
It's funny that you mentioned people to people, which of course is the core of what this is all about. I should mention that I have the pleasure of hosting you today on the podcast because you're here right now participating in the Joint Steering Committee board meeting. And we're celebrating 10 years of this incredible partnership. And as part of that 10-year anniversary celebration, I saw the wonderful video that was put together with various members of the Partnership Steering Committee talking about funny things that they've learned along the way or some anecdotes about what people to people really means. Is there one thing in particular that you've learned about Jewish life on the other side of the ocean that you didn't know before you were on the steering committee?
It's not a question of knowing. I think it's a question of feeling because I want to tell you a story. The last time I was here 2 years ago, you took us to Adath. To a service in Adath. We had this great evening together, and there was a service there, and I'm an observant Orthodox. And for me, it was such a moving experience because it was my first time in a shul which is not Orthodox, okay? And it was such a moving experience because the joy and the connection to the service and the singing and the whole experience was so different from what I know in a lot of Orthodox shul in Israel. They have a lot to learn from how you do the services and how connected you are to your Jewish identity when you come each and every service. And here, everyone, doesn't matter if you're observant, if you're secular, if you're conservative or reform, everyone knows the tefillah by heart, the Kaddish by heart. I was amazed. And everyone knows Alenu Leshabeach by heart. In Israel, if you're not observant, then you're not praying at all. So it's such a new experience for me to see how you are connected to your Jewish identity. Because here when it's not taken for granted that not everyone here are Jews. So you have to choose every day to practice your Judaism. Everything that you do, it doesn't matter which level. So this is amazing.
There are so many things that I'm going to ask you that I'm going to unpack as a result of that answer. But I want to give Sonya an opportunity to answer this question. But let me just say, I remember a couple of years ago, we had a teen exchange visit, and the teens from Rehovot were at Adath, and they had never been in a conservative synagogue before. And for the first 10 minutes, the look on their faces was utter bewilderment about where am I? What am I doing here? Because it was such a unique experience. And to see them, their bodies, you could tell in their body language, they started to relax, they started to participate, they started to see what you're talking about, that Jewish life in the United States and throughout the diaspora is different than in Israel. And it's important for them to understand that. If this is going to be a true people-to-people partnership, one of the reasons that we invest so heavily in it is precisely for the reason that you just hit on, in that we have to understand each other. And for people to have an appreciation for the diversity of worship and the diversity of points of view here in the United States is gold for us. And so I couldn't be more delighted to hear you tell that story. I'm going to give Sonya a chance to answer the question, but then I got some more questions. But go ahead, Sonya. I spoke too much there.
No, it's great. Love what you're adding in. And Avital, it's so interesting to hear your perspective, because I feel that you and I are taking two sides of a coin, and I'm looking in the other direction. And I'm seeing that you are seeing that we have to choose being Jewish. And I'm seeing that in Israel, your life is infused with Judaism. So it doesn't matter if you're religious or not, the entire country lives on Jewish time and on Jewish space. The kids are immersed in learning about the holidays and the values in school, public, secular schools, and adults are getting time off from work during Jewish holidays for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, which it's unbelievable that, you said you're observant, but even people who are not observant are still living in the time of being Jewish. And each week you feel Shabbat, you feel it in the air. Here in Minnesota, I can't tell whether it's Shabbat or not during the day. If I step outside, I step out of my home, unless I actually go to a synagogue to see it, or I'm invited to a Shabbat dinner, or I'm hosting a Shabbat dinner.
My childhood rabbi used to say, the truth of the matter is that in America, even the rocks are treif. It's a choice to move about those rocks and choose to live a Jewish life.
And so, we're in Israel, you can live a virtually secular life, and it can still be a deeply Jewish way of living. And so it's really interesting kind of seeing both sides.
Yeah, I think that the main thing that I've learned since I got to know you in this partnership is that that we in Israel take our Judaism for granted. I mean, you choose not just to go to be part of a congregation and to go to the shul, but you choose in every aspect of life. You deal with so many challenges. As you said, Shabbat, Orthodox observant here in the US, you have to stop work early so you will have Shabbat. But in Israel, we take it for granted that we don't work in this day. And when you have to plan ahead your vacations because of the Chagim, Rosh Hashanah and everything. And also friends. I mean, in Israel, all our friends are Jewish, so we don't have any challenges. But here, or you have friends who are Jewish and are non-Jewish. And also getting to know your spouses. I mean, when you want to get married, so how do you get to know, how do you find them? I mean, in Israel, we take it for granted that everyone are Jewish. You have so many challenges, and this is the main thing that I've learned since I came here.
It's amazing, and that's exactly what this is all about. So, again, music to my ears. I want to probe on this just a little bit more, Sonya, because you actually work at a progressive synagogue here in the Twin Cities, and I'm curious, from that perspective, visiting Israel and being part of the partnership, the whole concept of being a member of a synagogue in Israel is kind of an anathema, because you go to shul and you come home, right? So are there experiences around that, your professional life, that have impacted you or moved you in that regard as part of being part of this partnership?
I mean, at first, I think it's just interesting to see the similarities and the differences around kind of what membership looks like in the United States in there. Obvious similarities, right? We're celebrating Shabbat, we're celebrating the holidays, we're marking life cycle moments that's happening in both places. But the differences is kind of what really highlights how the role that a synagogue serves is very different in Israel and here. Working at Beth Jacob, we're so much more than just a synagogue as a house of prayer. It's really a sacred space for building community. And for many people, it might be the only Jewish space that you can be a part of. And so it's community. We're doing events, there's a lot of kind of social things, there's committees that are focusing on areas of interest. And so kind of other differences I've noticed, so in the United States, kind of membership and synagogues are based off of kind of a movement of Judaism, whether it's Reform, Conservative, or Orthodox. And I think there is still some of that in Israel, but I feel that I'm noticing more that it's based on ethnic background and country of origin. One thing I found really interesting is that there's this relatively newer movement of Masorti. I think it officially translates to traditional, and I found it to be really similar to conservative Judaism. And we actually had the opportunity to visit the Masorti synagogue in Rehovot, which was very, very
I've been there.
special.
It is very special.
It's special, and it really reminded me a lot of Beth Jacob Synagogue where I'm working. It was egalitarian. There was a woman who was leading davening. The atmosphere of the room, the way we were sitting, also kind of was really similar. There was no machitza, there's no kind of division. And I think that many Israelis maybe don't even know that this exists. And when we're sharing different ways of observing Judaism, it maybe gives more opportunity for people who are previously living a secular life and want to be involved. Someone from the partnership who I'm friends with, Kalnit, was saying she's going there occasionally. She's interested in it.
That's great. I mean, one of the great things about one of the strengths of Federation itself is that we're a table at which Jews of every stripe can sit, whether regardless of where they worship, if they worship. And so to be bringing people together again from various streams is really, I think, is a plus. It adds to understanding. I want to turn a little bit to some of the meat and potatoes of what the partnership is up to. And Avital, as a former spokesperson for the Rehovot municipality, you have a very unique perspective and insight as to what the actual needs are on the ground in Rehovot. And Federation is always very interested in doing everything we can to support our sister city in good times and bad times and everything in between. Is there a specific challenge that Rehovot is facing that you think Federation can help with? That it isn't currently, and also are there ones that we are helping with now that really come to your mind as being at the top?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for everything that you did from the beginning of the war. We've really felt your warm hug and your willing to help. And it was really good to know that our brothers and sisters across the sea really think about us all the time. And I would just say one thing about the ambulance, the Hatzalah ambulance that you funded for Rehovot, and it was so quick to come. So thank you for that. And for answering your question, I think that one of the challenges is the fact that there isn't any awareness of what you go through here as Jews. So just like what I said before of experiencing and feeling when you come here and visit, such as my experience in the conservative synagogue, I think that you can help us with more awareness and more education to what you do, to what you are going through here. So if we try to translate it to practical moves, then maybe having more delegations and more connections and more programs, so we will create more ripples for people to know what is going on here.
Are you surprised by the level of anti-Semitism that Jewish communities in the United States are experiencing now, particularly post-October 7th? Is that something that you think the average Israeli knows about? And do you think that there are ways that we can, to your point, specifically help people understand better the realities on the ground here?
It does surprise me here in the U.S. because I know we were educated. The American nation is all about human rights and the freedom of speech. And yesterday we met students at Hillel, and she told us this story that on the memorial service for the 7th of October, their building was under siege because of demonstrations. You, the American nation, you know all about freedom of speech and human rights, and how can you do this on the 7th of October memorials? I think all of us in Israel were very surprised to hear about all the demonstrations in Columbia, and especially in the academia, Columbia and Harvard and all those universities, because we expected from the people, especially in the academia, to listen and to have the conflict after you've learned all the arguments and that you have all the facts right. But the anti-Semitism, as we see it here, it's based on a lot of things that you don't know, a lot of facts that you don't have them right. And so this is what really surprised me.
It's something that we deal with on a daily basis, which is we are at a tremendous disadvantage in the discourse about Israel, in that we are losing the battle as far as fact-telling is concerned. One can criticize the state of Israel, and if you have 10 Jews in a room, you're going to have 15 criticisms, and that's healthy, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But the debate and the discourse needs to be based on fact. And the Federation is firmly committed to making sure that people know the facts, and at the same time, people are entitled to their opinion. As long as they are dealing with fact, we have to respect that. And we'll continue to do so. But it's interesting that that's what really strikes you. On the flip side, Sonya, I want to ask you, and I try not to make everything or look at everything exclusively through an October 7th lens, but it's still hard not to do so in a lot of ways. So is there anything in particular about post-October 7th Israel that has struck you in particular, now having gone through a couple of cycles of partnership activities since the tragedy happened?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are living in a post-October 7th world, and I think it was such a big tragedy that it really has affected all of us. But really what I've taken away from, seeing how Israel, the Israelis, the civilians mobilized at an incredible speed to come together, to support one another, to help, whether it's preparing food or collecting donations or collecting items for IDF soldiers that didn't have the supplies that they needed. The whole country of Israel really united with one another, and they brought each other strength and resilience during an unbelievably hard time in their country. And at the same time, they're experiencing internal serious political division and polarization. So the months leading up to October 7th, here we're in the States reading articles and talking with people in the partnership and hearing about demonstrations and really a lot of turmoil internally when it comes to politics, but then seeing how everyone put that aside, came together, at least initially. I don't know if I can speak to how it is now. I think Avital can answer that better, but you saw that Am Yisrael stood together, and it's really so powerful, and that we're here standing with them. I'm often feeling helpless, but I'm sending love and I'm praying every day for our family in Israel and doing whatever we can, even if it's writing messages to the families who have soldiers and those messages being delivered with pizza to those families, really anything we can do to be a part of that.
And we're going to keep doing it too. We're going to keep doing it. There are so many exciting things going on around the partnership, and I wish we had time to explore every program, which we don't. We have the new business affinity, which just completed its first trip. We have the ever-growing book club, the recent Veterans Exchange. What one or two programs that are currently going on really float your boat that you're really proud to share with people? And Avital, we'll start with you.
Each and every program has her own special aspects, but I want to say that it's very impressive that the fact that you create a strategy as to teach about Israel, it's very impressive, because that's the right way to do it. I mean, especially after the 7th of October, you can't just keep doing it the same way you did it before.
Right. Even we don't always get it right, but sometimes we do. And I think I appreciate that. We are trying to be more strategic in how we teach Israel, how we talk about Israel, giving people the opportunity, and to the earlier point, to create a space where there can be respectful discussions about Israel. So I appreciate that. Sonya, what that's going on in the partnership right now really gives you pride?
I think really seeing the veteran program come to be. So I really, when I was first stepping on to being on the steering committee, was when I heard the first ideas of having a veteran exchange program. This was before October 7th. So the seeds were planted, and I was like, wow, of course, it's a great idea. I know here in the United States, I have friends and people who I know that are veterans and they're Jewish. And I felt that, wow, what a great way to build those connections. And some of the people that, right, I'm watching this program slowly build and come to be. And, I sent a lot, some contacts of, hey, talk to this person. They're a veteran and would be interested in learning more. And then a few months ago, there was the application, and finally the program is being launched. And to see that some people that I recommended to apply are becoming a part of the program, and knowing that, okay, boom, that was it. That was the thing that's going to pull them into this incredible partnership. And that, just like have made friendships for a lifetime, knowing that these individuals are also having the chance to connect with IDF soldiers and people who are veterans on the other side of the ocean, and to keep building those connections. I'm really excited to see this program come to be. I hope it will continue.
Well, part two is yet to take place. For those of our listeners who don't know, this Veterans Exchange, we had our first group of Israeli veterans and reservists come to spend time here in Minneapolis with their counterparts here in Minnesota. And the Minnesotans are going to Israel this fall. And there's so many aspects. Just hearing the stories that emerge from that, the first thing that some people, particularly Israelis here in Minnesota, say when I tell them about this project, they pause and say, but everyone in Israel is a veteran. And that's part of the point, is for our veterans to understand what military service is like in Israel, what being a reservist is like being in Israel. And the counter is for our Israeli friends to get to understand better what motivates people to volunteer here in the United States. We don't have a draft, and all of the shared values that they all have. And this, like I said, everything that I've heard thus far about the first part of this was incredibly successful. And I hope to have some participants in the Veterans Exchange, both on the Israeli side and on the American side, at this table sometime in the future. So spoiler alert, that's coming at some point. We're almost out of time, and it always goes by so quickly. And I thank you both so much for being with me. But I want to leave you with one last question, which I'm hoping is infused with hope. And that is, where do you hope the partnership is going to be 10 years from now? What goals do you think will have been achieved by then? And what will we be celebrating when the partnership turns 20? Avital, we'll start with you.
Okay, hope, as you said, and I say optimism. I'm a sworn optimist. So I think we just spoke about it in one of our sessions with the steering committee. We have a big challenge here because the people who are making this partnership today are the ones who still heard the stories of the Holocaust from first impression. And 20 years from now, 10 years from now, the people who will hold this partnership will be the next generation, and they're different. They're a little bit different. So I think the challenge is to connect them and to motivate them to volunteer and to be in touch with Israel the way that you do. So I'm an optimist because I know that because you, as I said before, educate Israel differently, and because you really look at it in a very different perspective and giving the right tools just after the 7th of October to the next generation, then I know we'll have new programs, and I know we will have another dedicated generation who wants to keep this partnership alive and kicking.
Hopeful as I had hoped. How about you, Sonya?
Definitely all about the hope here. And not just hope. hope. I'm confident. I'm confident that our partnership will continue to grow and to expand and to evolve, like what Avital said, for the next generation. You know, whatever we're doing now are great programs, and maybe we're going to come up with new ideas and new programs that are going to continue to touch more and more lives on both sides of the ocean. And to really see the next generation become involved, I think it will bring all of us a lot of naches to see, for instance, for me, to see my nephews becoming involved in kind of a sister city partnership and to be meeting friends in Rehovot. And, as always, that our diaspora Israel bond will be unbreakable, it will be strong and more connected, and that we're going to continue to show up for each other during the good times, during the bad times. We're in it together.
From your mouth to God's ears, and I hope that 10 years from now, if I'm lucky enough to still be sitting here, I will conduct this in Hebrew. And with that, Avital, Sonya, thank you so much. I'll be here from the desk of. Bye now.